It's time to join your host, Jean-Francois Gemme, founder of List Building Anonymous, the 12-step program for building a profitable online business, and the only podcast which delivers A to Z strategies from the online trenches and experts straight to you.
Hi, my name is Jean-Francois and I'm a list builder. I want to welcome you to today's episode where we'll go over the step 3 of the 12 steps program for building a profitable list. Today we're having a very special guest, someone I met back in 2012 in Costa Rica, and that had a huge impact in my life and my business. Thanks to his teaching, I was able to get to my first $3,000 day and then to my first $10,000 month. So David Sharpe has taught internet marketing to over 500,000 students. Forbes featured him as one of the most genuine 8-figure earners to learn from. David is a legendary sales and marketing training, world-renowned motivational speaker and expert, personal breakthrough strategist. After 8 years of homelessness, hardship, and personal struggle, David got clean and sober in 2008 and went on to launch $3 million companies, totaling over $175 million in sales. So Dave's message is that anyone can turn their struggle into their strength and turn their past into a meaningful message of hope. So I strongly recommend to you to grab something to take notes and put on your seatbelt because you're in for a treat. So it is with great honor that I give you David Sharpe.
Jean, how you doing, buddy? It's such an honor to be on your show today. Thank you for having me.
I'm fine, thank you. So the third steps is we made a decision to turn our focus onto providing value first. So I know that this is a topic that you like to dive into. So first, I would like to get your thoughts about the importance of providing value first.
Yeah, sure. This is always something that is hard for people to wrap their heads around because most people are used to getting paid before they do anything for people. And so this was something that took me a while to learn and to master, but it's so important. And the reason why is because nowadays there's so much competition online, and the internet has given anybody and their brother the opportunity to be known and be heard and have a shot at earning your customers' money. And so really the way to earn somebody's business nowadays is it's kind of like a good example would be a high school dance. You know, like the boys are on one side and the girls on the other, and the girls are kind of scanning the boys, seeing basically the question that they're asking themselves is, you know, which boy is going to be the most valuable to me, right? Which boy is the cutest? Which boy is got the best personality? Which boy is going to give me the best status in high school? Because if you remember anything about high school, which for most of us, it was either a miserable experience or it was, you know, something that we've just blocked out of our minds. It's tough, right? It's tough to be a teenager in high school. So you want to be with the cool kids. And so that girl's looking at that boy saying, is he going to elevate my status so I am able to hang out with the cool kids? In the marketplace, it's the same exact way, right? It's the same exact concept that your customers are looking at you, and you can also bet your ass that they're looking at other people too. Excuse my French, pun intended there. That they are looking at other people, right? They are looking at other providers, other whatever business you're in. They are looking at your competition and they're asking themselves, who is of more value, you or your competitors? And so that's why it's important to do kind of what you're doing here, Jean, which is clearly, you know, is developing value for people. So you can demonstrate that you can help them by actually helping them first, right? Which is kind of a real key thing to remember is that, you know, everybody else out there is saying that they can help your customer, but if you actually show them you can help them first, and then say, hey, if you would like me to continue to help you, then these are what my products and services are and how you can work with me. That's the real key to success in any business nowadays, in particular if you're going to be online with all of the noise that there is online these days.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. And I like the first part when you said that most people, they're used to be paid before they do anything. Unfortunately, I would say like 98% of the people that are trying to do something online, they are still stuck with that mindset, and they kind of trying to test the water before they really dive into and provide value. So yeah, so that was a great example also with the girls, the dance. So that's great. So, and the second part I'd like to have your thoughts on is what determine our value in the marketplace, in your opinion?
Well, I think it's the same example, the same analogy about the high school girls and boys. It's like, first of all, your presentation. So, I mean, I don't think people change that much over time in the way that they view something or someone as valuable. So if we look at the example of the high school, the girls are looking at the guys, they're looking at how they look, right? So how do you look? What is your presentation? That could mean everything from what does your Facebook profile look like? Is it filled with dumb memes and negativity, or is it filled with, stories and positivity and value? If somebody comes to your website or your sales funnel, are they going to see value or are they going to see no value, right? So I think the first place you have to start is your presentation. And how do you look? And I'm not particularly talking about your personal looks, because I've seen some really ugly people that are awful successful, right? Yeah. As a matter of fact, the majority of people that are super rich, they ain't that great looking, right? You ever seen a very sexy woman on a very ugly man's arm? Yeah. Well, that's because most likely he's very successful, right? So what is your presentation like? How do you look in the eyes of your prospect is the first question that you have to ask yourself. The second thing, and I'm going to continue on that same analogy, is, do you actually have value? Do you know what you're talking about, or do you know how to find people who know what they're talking about? Because sometimes it's not about your resources, it's about your resourcefulness. And do you actually, can you actually help somebody in the area that you're saying that you can help them to? And it's very important to remember that, it's not always about knowing everything, but it's about having good sources of information. It's about being a part of good quality companies. It's about when you bring your customer in, your prospect into your world, are they going to be impressed or not? It's kind of like if you bring your date over to your parents' house or your family get together, or is it going to be a complete, dysfunction of does your family put the fun in dysfunction, or is your date going to be impressed by what they see? So I think that's the second thing is first thing is presentation. Second thing is, can you actually bring value to this person's life? Do you know stuff, or are you connected with stuff that will help them? I think that, it's important also to be fun. It's important to be entertaining. I think that most people are so caught up on education that they forget about entertainment. And people all day, every day will pay to be entertained before they'll pay to be educated. And so I think value, entertainment is often forgotten about in the conversation of value, because everybody's always thinking about, well, I've got to know so much stuff. I've got to be educated. When really, if you can be entertaining, which means that maybe if you're doing a video show, or you have little things that you say every time or on every show, or, you're just light, you're not serious, you make it fun for people to be around you and you have the ability. There's a saying called funny is money, and that's an old speaker term, but I think it's very true. So I think value also has to do with entertainment. And, the following along with the analogy that I used before about status is somebody being associated with you going to up-level their status. A lot of people will do things because they can go and tell their people, well, I'm a part of so-and-so's thing, right? So can you create or be associated with people who can elevate your status? Because ultimately that's what people want. They want a higher status. That's why they wear fancy jewelry and buy fancy cars and stuff like that, is because it elevates their status. And so, I think that's the final thing, which, I think creates value, because it's not always about value. Sometimes it's just about perceived value. Yeah. And that's one of the things that status is. It's just a perceived value thing. It's not actually tangible. And so I think those three things, if somebody covers those those four areas. Presentation, I forgot what I just said, but presentation, yeah, you just, as you're listening to this, take notes, because these are things that I've been doing for years now, and I don't have them written down in front of me. I just know them by heart now, and I just do them in everything that I do.
But would you agree that if we sum this up, it's the ability to set a presentation, to present your skill set?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, presentation and the ability to present your skill set is very important. You're never going to be done improving on that. Yeah. So that's something that we're always improving, and the more you do it, the better you are. Most people say, I suck at sales or I suck at presenting, but they've never actually tried. And the only way to get better at it is to actually do it. So, yes, I do think it's important, but I think that we all suck when we start. So it's just a matter of practicing and then copying things that you see other people do that are successful.
Great. And the last thing I'd like to discuss with you is, in your opinion, what are the two most profitable skill sets?
The two most profitable skill sets, gosh, in what industry, John? What business?
For sure, specifically online business.
Well, there's so many different things that are extremely profitable. I think the ability to be able to tell your story is probably the most profitable skill set that you can have. But then again, your ability to be able to actually take that story and put it into written words, or put it into, your sales copy or your email copy or your webinar presentation slides or whatever, that's extremely important too. There's a lot of people who have never gotten on camera who can just write great copy, who are millionaires, so it's, everybody I think thinks that when you say tell stories, what somebody means is that you have to get on camera or you have to be on stage. That's not particularly true, but learning to be able to put those words and make them come alive, part of the difference between successful and unsuccessful people is that successful people can find the words to their thoughts. They can take something that people look at and they don't really have the words for, and they can put words to them to give them meaning and bring them to life. So I think that telling your story and the ability to be able to share that in both verbal and written form is profitable. I think leadership is another. I've always said this. I think leadership is the most profitable skill set in the world, because ultimately, if you're a great leader and you can't do any of this stuff that we're talking about, people will still engage with you and want to be a part of what you're doing. And then I think the last, which I don't normally talk about this because it's obvious that you need the ability to be able to drive traffic, and you need to be able the ability to build your list, and all of the stuff that you're probably talking about and teaching is everything that people need. I think one thing that I'll offer that is not talked about enough is it's like self-awareness. I think that having self-awareness to how you come off to people, and what you look like and what you sound like and what areas you need to grow in, and the ability to take responsibility for your actions and not blame them on other people, but to own them and to find the motivation to want to change them. I think that is maybe the most profitable skill of all, because in a world of people who make excuses and people who are negative and are always looking for somebody to blame and are never thinking that there's anything wrong with them or anywhere that they can actually improve themselves, the person who is always looking for how they can be a better person and always looking for where they can grow and always looking for how they can learn a lesson and are willing to take responsibility, those people are the leaders. Those are the rich. Every single person that I've been on the phone and have personal friends with. I was just on the phone the other day with Dean Graziosi. He's done $1 billion in sales and real estate education training programs over the years. Just in the last 2 weeks, I've been on the phone with and talked to people over at Dan Kennedy's organization, and I have a phone call with him next week. People, leaders and speakers, and I tell you, every single one of them. Every single person that I've met that's super, super successful, they are militant. They are obsessed with how they can grow in taking responsibility for both their successes, but also their failures and where they fall short. So I think that because that keeps you in a place of always learning, and it keeps you in a place of humility, and I think that's maybe the secret sauce of most people that I've met that are really successful. And it's also what my secret sauce is, because, that's kind of the mindset that I've developed over the last 8 years or so since I got clean and since I started really working on myself. I was homeless and my life was a disaster back in 2004. And back then, none of it was my fault, right? But now my life is totally different. It's amazing. And I take responsibility for everything. And I'm the first person that I look at when something goes wrong. So I think if there was one thing that somebody could change to be successful, and that is a characteristic of successful people that I've ran into, it is that one thing.
Yeah, that's awesome, because I was listening to you and I was thinking that you just right off the bat provide another subject that we could have talked about when it comes to value is over-delivering. I know that me and also you're striving to do that. And with the last question, I was asking the two most profitable skill set, and you think you gave like 5 or 6 of them. So I thank you for that. But I also recognize that when we talk about value, over-delivering is what will set us apart, like you said at the beginning, compared to competition. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
Great.
Yeah, and I'll give you some final thoughts on that. Just that, I think that's part of who somebody's personality is. It's not just about in your business that you over-deliver. Being successful in business, it's not, I believe that how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you notice that, like if you've ever been around real millionaires, they're very different than other people. They're obsessed about, their marriages. They're obsessed about being the best parent that they can be. They're obsessed about, it's not just business, right? So they're obsessed about, their health. And on all these different subjects, they go the extra mile. And so if that's who you are or who you can become, when it comes to doing business, it'll be natural for you to over-deliver. But what is very unnatural is if you are lazy, always cutting corners, always taking shortcuts in your personal life and in everything else that you do, but then all of a sudden you want to try to be a different person in your business and over-deliver, it's going to be a disconnect. It's a mental disconnect. Your body and your brain's going, wait, this is not what we're used to. And so I would urge anybody that if you really truly want to be a millionaire, if you really truly want to be successful, if you want to live the life of your dreams and have an internet laptop lifestyle, then become the best version of yourself in every area of your life. And then it will be easy to over-deliver to your customers because you'll have already got yourself into a habit of doing that in everything you do.
Yeah, that's awesome. So to recap, in this episode, we focus on turning our focus onto providing value first by digging into the importance of providing value. We also talked about what determines our value in the marketplace. And lastly, we saw more than 2, but the most profitable skill set. So this is essential to determine how much impact we want to make in the world. So now for next week, we'll continue with step 4, which is we made a searching and fearless inventory of ourselves to reveal our superpower. And we'll have another yet amazing guest, so you don't want to miss this. I will send you the invite and reveal the name of that guest. So for now, I want to extend a warm thank you to David Sharpe, who allowed us to pick his brain.
Hey man, it's the pleasure is all mine.
Great. So I want to also thank everyone for tuning in and look forward to lock arms with you and together master these steps. Until then, I wish you an amazing journey.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.